Welcome to BWTMONLINE, and this edition of Inside Story. We ask the questions you want the answers to. And now our host, Ingram Jones.
Hi and welcome to BWTMONLINE. I'm your host Ingram Jones. On the show tonight, I'll be talking to James Ali Bashir in a 2-hour special. We could have cut this into 2 parts, but I kind of felt that I spent 2 hours on the phone talking to James about boxing, and was so engrossed in so many different areas of boxing, from strength and conditioning trainers to performance enhancing drugs to boxing techniques. It was a really in-depth, insightful interview with a man who's been in boxing for over 30 years, and it's a real good listen for those who want to know more about the behind the scenes of boxing. James Ali Bashir is currently the trainer of Eddie Chambers, and as you'll hear as well, he has some connections with the British heavyweight. So without further ado, let's see what James Ali Bashir has to say.
Okay, where do I begin? Can you let the fans know who you are and what you do?
I'm James Ali Bashir. I've got 40 years in the profession of boxing. I'm probably one of the few old trainers that's still around, and I've been there. I'm working with the heavyweight champion. I've been with the heavyweight champion for 9 years, and of course, I'm the trainer for Eddie Chambers and Stephen Chambers. Excellent. And I've trained a host of other heavyweights, including Shannon Briggs, Monty Barrett, Maurice Harris, Andre Paulette. So I've trained some pretty well-known fighters.
Wow, that's a lot of experience you've got there, over 40 years. That's fantastic. And
yeah, 40 years. 40 years is a long time, yeah.
So I guess you know a good fighter when you see one.
Yeah, I do all right for myself. Yeah, I believe that.
Okay, so
if I don't know, if I don't know now, I probably never will know.
You never will do. Right. So we'll touch base on other fighters later. What I want to do is find out a little bit more about your career. I mean, in terms of whether you boxed before. So did you ever have a boxing career beforehand?
Yes. I boxed as an amateur. I never went pro because I was born with impaired vision.
Okay.
And that didn't allow me to become a pro. I realized something about boxing, and I realize it more now than ever before, that if you don't have the complete package, then it's not a sport that that you can contribute to. You can only get hurt. But I could never pass the eye test anyway, so I was out of that from the very beginning. As a young man, because I was born with impaired vision. And even to this day, with all the modern techniques, even to this very day, I'm not a candidate for LASIK vision. So my vision is a permanent case. It cannot be corrected.
Well, I guess the fact that you didn't turn pro is a blessing to the boxing community for the amount of fighters that you've turned over.
Yeah, I think I could have made a better contribution. I think I could have made a good contribution. I learned the sport well. I learned the techniques. I learned the ins and outs, and I learned it from old school trainers. Not like the fly by night instant trainers, I call them nowadays.
Yes.
I learned from trainers. You get the trainers nowadays. I liken them to hot cocoa. You put it in were old school, old technique trainers. And yeah, I think I could have made a pretty good contribution to boxing itself had I been able to turn pro.
Wow.
It was my heart's desire, it was my heart's desire. I envisioned myself being this great fighter, and I really wanted to try it. I had everything I needed, but I didn't have the eyes.
Wow. I can only sympathise with you because I kind of felt the same way myself with my boxing career, but I fell ill and for 7 years, and that took the best part of my life away, and I never got to turn pro, but I ended up doing some boxing coaching and stuff, but it's no way to where what you've done, but I certainly can feel that sort of stuff that you feel that you could have got in there and made an impact and made a difference as a fighter yourself. But I guess in some ways that
yeah, I think
go ahead.
I think that I could have made a great contribution. I'm not telling you that I could have been Ray Leonard or Thomas Hearns or anything, but I think that I could have made a very good contribution with the mindset that I had during that time, boxing as an amateur. I think that I could have made a great contribution,
Wow.
I would have been someone to be reckoned with because I took it serious. I took it serious as an amateur, so I know how I would have been as a professional.
You would have taken it seriously as well. So, in your amateur bouts, did you win any titles?
No, and I didn't have a long career at it. I might have had about 21, 22 fights as an amateur boxer.
Okay.
I never aspired to that level, because the trainer stopped me from it. The trainer that I had, his name was Frank Shirley, and he advised me, listen, you can't see.
Wow.
You can't see. Your reflexes and your time and everything is dependent upon your vision, and you don't have it. So I learned to accept that with a grain of salt, and what I do now is I pass it on to other young men that I see that don't have it. I simply tell them, you don't have it. I think it's the best way. I think that I'm a favor by telling them. I carry that tradition on to this day. If I see a fighter that doesn't have the attributes that's necessary to be a boxer, I tell them, listen, you don't have it. I don't want to sound harsh. I don't want to sound rude or disrespectful, but I let them know that, no, you don't have it. You shouldn't try this sport.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that.
And I tell boxers that I think that's done over the hill. I tell them to this day, hey, your time in boxing is done. Move on and do something else because you don't have it no more for the sport.
Well, how many fighters have turned around and told you mind your own business?
Oh man. It's like the people who make big aspirin. The aspirin, I've had that many fighters tell me that.
Wow. Even with all your experience, they still would turn around and say that to you.
Yeah, I can kind of identify with it because nobody wants to hear that I can't do this anymore. Nobody wants to hear that I don't have it anymore. Nobody wants to hear that. No. So I don't think they meant any harm personally to me. I just think they were acting on the spur of emotion. Nobody wants to hear that they don't have it no more. Nobody wants to hear that. So when they give me the mouth, the back talk, I just say, okay, and I walk away.
That's the warrior within them, though. That's the fighter within them, though. That's the fighter that's taken through the long career.
Right.
So I can understand that. Wow.
Yes, of course. They're gonna be upset because they envision themselves the same way I envision myself. When my trainer told me that I couldn't see it, I couldn't do it, I couldn't hack it, I didn't say nothing verbally to him, but I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't like the idea that he was telling me that, But I never said anything to him, but I didn't like it.
How did you deal with that?
I left boxing for about 16 months, 17 months, hanging in the streets and stuff. But boxing was always my first love, so I eventually drifted back to it. And I started assisting my old trainer. I started assisting him, tying gloves, carrying the spit bucket, hanging around the gym, putting Vaseline on different guys, just learning what I could from the old school trainers, you know. And I had no idea that I would become a trainer. I just was just hanging around the gym because I liked it.
That's usually how it happens. You know, you don't look for something; it just comes. It brings itself to you. Destiny's like that.
Right. I found myself going to amateur fights, you know, tying gloves, putting Vaseline on, and doing a little coaching here and there. But still, I didn't have any perspective that I was going to become a trainer.
So when was it? What was that moment? There's always a moment in our lives that says, you know what? That's what it is. This is what I need to be doing. When did you discover that? When did you get enlightened that was going to be, you were going to become a boxing coach?
I think the bug really bit me when I began to go into the Muhammad Ali training camp in Deer Lake, Pennsylvania, in the mid-'70s. I started going into Muhammad Ali's camp and hanging out in the camp, and that's what I was doing. I was just hanging out. I had no idea even then that I was going to become a trainer, but I said while I was there, I want to be a part of boxing. I still didn't declare that I'm going to be a trainer. I was just there doing the standard things, you know, helping tie the gloves and carrying a spit bucket, or, you know, going here and just helping in any capacity that I could. But it was there in that camp, in the Muhammad Ali training camp, with Larry Holmes and Michael Dokes and Eddie Mustafa Muhammad, Matthew Saad Muhammad, with the great boxers I saw in those camps. I started to think that I want to be a part of this.
Wow. So what was it like being around Ali in those days?
Oh, pure fun. Pure fun. Always fun with Ali. Ali liked people. Angelo Dundee did not like us there. He didn't like that. He didn't like it, but he accepted it because Muhammad Ali liked it. You know, Ali liked us there. Ali liked people. Ali loved people. I mean, you could have been a car salesman, but Muhammad Ali would never turn you away from the camp. I mean, we would spend the night there, you know. They had cabins and stuff where you would spend the night there, and Ali never chased nobody away.
Wow. And as a fighter, technically, I mean, you would have seen things inspiring that obviously a lot of the media would not have seen. What was Ali like as a fighter behind closed doors?
Ali trained as hard as any fighter that I ever see. I know that Mike McKim, Michael Spinks, those guys were hard workers. Muhammad Ali was a hard worker too. Otherwise, he couldn't have been the fighter that he was. He was a hard worker. He was a concentrated worker. And even though he was outwardly joyful, he was a concentrated human being. He always wanted to be the best that he can be, so he worked hard, you know.
So I want to touch a little bit more on Muhammad Ali, and really the case of when Muhammad Ali, with the whole Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, when he got imprisoned for not wanting to go to war, and obviously
he wasn't imprisoned.
Pardon?
He was never imprisoned.
What happened to him?
He was never imprisoned.
What did they do to him?
The WBA, the
Yes.
World Boxing Association,
Yes.
stripped him of his championship.
Okay.
It stripped him of the world championship for 3 years and about 7.5, 8 months.
Okay.
Nearly 4 years of his career, they stripped him of the title, and they didn't recognize him as the world champ.
Okay.
Jimmy Ellis, Joe Frazier, and those guys, they fought for the titles and became the champions, but Ernie Terrell, all these guys wore the title of being the WBA champion, but they stripped him, and they would not allow him to ply his trade in the United States. They also took his passport.
Oh, wow.
So he really couldn't earn a living at boxing for 3.5 years, nearly 4 years. They took away from him. They took the prime years of his career away from him.
Well,
I think that.
Go ahead.
I think that if they hadn't stripped him of the title, I don't think Joe Frazier would ever beat Muhammad Ali.
Wow. So although he wasn't actually physically imprisoned, you may as well said he was in some ways blocked and stopped.
Yeah. Okay,
he may as well have been in a prison because he was not allowed to apply his trade the way he wanted to. You know, stripped him of his title and stripped him of his rights, to be quite honest.
Right.
So maybe not physically in prison, but all the making.
You can say that. You can say that.
That's probably the best. That's probably what I was trying to say, but probably not in prison.
It was a spiritual, physical prison. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's
the prison was spiritually and physically. Okay. Yes. Okay. I can agree to that.
Yeah. So
because it stopped him from doing something that he loved, and I know he still loves it to this day.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow. And for him to come back the way he did and to win the world title again was an amazing feat. He wasn't the same fighter that he was, obviously, before that had happened.
As I said, they took away nearly 4 years of his prime.
Yes.
He was in his prime when they stopped him from boxing. So they took away 4 years of his prime, and he still came back and did magnificent things for a boxer.
So when that was going on and he'd been stopped or he'd been blocked, and the heavyweight division was the way it was, when Ali returned, I would have thought there'd have been a lot of people talking at that time about, well, he's not got it no more, he'll never be champ again, and that sort of stuff. What was the camp like then?
Well, a lot of people didn't think that he could come back and do what he did. If you understand the history of boxing, Muhammad didn't have a lot of time when he came back to boxing. He fought Jerry Quarry. I think 6 months later he fought Oscar Bonavena, and almost a year later he fought Joe Frazier, which was unheard of. It was unheard of because it was just too soon to fight Joe Frazier. He fought Jerry Quarry, Oscar Bonavena, 2 top contenders. Today's fighter would fight 4 or 5 fights, mediocre guys. They wouldn't do what he did. But he took the bull by the horns by challenging top contender Jerry Quarry, by challenging top contender Oscar Bonavena and knocking him out, something that Joe Frazier couldn't do. Wow. Joe Frazier was knocked down twice in 2 separate fights by Oscar Bonavena. And Joe Frazier, although he won those decisions, he took a beating in the process. So for Ali to come back after 4 years and challenge Jerry Quarry and then challenge Oscar Bonavena and then challenge Joe Frazier, that in itself was a small miracle.
Well, he showed plenty of heart and plenty of guts and a strong inner will. What do you think it was that kept Ali going despite the naysayers and despite the layoff? What was it that do you think was able to keep him going in all of that?
Pride. He just had a lot of pride. He had a lot of pride, and he was the kind of guy that if you said it can't be done, he was determined that he was going to do it, you know?
Wow.
He wanted to be the guy to say you're wrong, you know? He was a pride.
So what were you? So at the time, by the time Ali came back, where were you in your career as a coach?
My career as a coach, as I said, it didn't really start until Ali came back, you know?
Right.
I was very young when they exiled him.
Okay.
You know? Very, very young. And my tenure as a trainer came after the Frazier and the Bonavenas and all. I was too young.
Okay.
I was very young then.
Okay.
Very young guy.
So where would you say where was your era? Where would you say you started really getting into training or becoming a coach or really?
About 1975, 76.
That's when I was born, 76.
Yeah. and you're born in '76. So that just goes to show how young you were and how young I was.
Yeah, I was just coming out of my mother at 76, and you were on the road to being a great trainer.
I hope so.
Well,
I really hope so.
Well, I think
I really hope so.
You're cheap.
Not just for fame and fortune, but I hope that I can be a contribution to this sport, because it is a great sport.
Absolutely.
It's being mutilated and mauled by the organizations.
Yes.
By the drugs.
Yeah.
You understand? And by the people who are corrupt. That's what's destroying the sport. So I hope that I can be...
Go ahead.
I hope that I can be something positive. I hope that I can make a positive contribution to it.
I'm sure already that you've made a fantastic contribution over 40 years. Now, I want to ask you a question. We touched on drugs and the hot topic, which is performance enhancement drugs, and various fighters around the world who've been caught, or fighters who are suspected to be on something, or as they say, on the juice, but yet not proven to be on the juice. Now, question number one. Do you, as a boxing coach, trainer, can you spot a fighter that's on juice?
No, I don't have a trained eye for it. I do know that there are certain reactions that the skin has to drugs, depending on what drugs you're using. There's usually a lot of pimples and stuff on their backs, and that's one sign that there's drug use, when you see a lot of pimples on the face and on the back and on the shoulders. But outside of that, no, I don't have a really trained eye for, a guy that's on drugs. I don't have a trained eye for that. No, I don't.
Okay. Do you believe that these drugs can have a significant advantage in the ring?
Yes, I do. So I believe some of them could give people the physical capacity to endure pain that they might not ordinarily be able to endure if they wasn't on drugs. I think that it helps with their stamina. I think it helps with their physical strength. So yes, I do believe that those drugs can help them, give them an advantage for that 1 hour or 2 hours that they're in there, that they're working to become the winner of that particular fight.
Now, there are some fighters that have been caught and have used performance enhancement drugs and actually have been on the wrong side of fights and got knocked out. So,
well, simply because they did something to create flaw in their technique, but not because of the drugs itself. They had the drugs to enhance their credibility, but their technique was flawed. That's what caused them to lose the fight.
So that's
not because the drug didn't work.
Absolutely. Now that's something that I've argued till I'm blue in the face over with other guys on Twitter and on boxing forums. They think that just because you take drugs, you're suddenly going to be a better fighter. If you've got a poor technique, then you've got a poor technique.
If you got a poor technique, you're still going to get your ass whooped.
It
doesn't matter,
It's a fact.
You can have the best drugs in the world. If you can't fight, you're still going to get your ass whooped. So all the time, it does not mean all the time that because a guy is taking a drug to give him an extra edge in the fight, it does not mean that they are going to win. There could be a flaw in the technique. There could be some injury that they incurred during the fight.
Right.
Where that drug won't save them,
Yes.
I mean, you got different kinds. You got anabolic, you got testosterone, countless other drugs that works on specific things in the body.
Of course.
And sometimes they don't work.
And the side effects afterwards, after their careers are over.
Human growth, you got the human growth hormone.
Yeah.
You got the testosterone. You got the anabolic. And they work in different ways. And everybody, sometimes people's bodies might go into shock by rejecting the drug.
Wow. Well,
that's the danger.
Let me ask you, back in those days, Was there any sort of use of these sort of drugs? Were they around? Were they used?
In the old days, going back the early 70s, 60s, 50s, there probably was a drug around, but they were crude. They weren't as high-tech and advanced as they are now, but they were very crude and detectable. You know, and you didn't find a lot of guys. A lot of guys used to use over-the-counter stuff to give themselves the edge, but most of them were legal, you know?
Wow. Okay. What sort of stuff were they using, would you say?
Pardon me?
What sort of stuff do you think they were using over the counter, would you say?
I couldn't specifically say, but creatine was one of them.
Creatine. So back in those days, they were using creatine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Creatine and things of that nature, you know. But I think, for the most part, that it's all psychological.
Oh.
As a man thinketh, then
so
is
shall
he.
be. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree with that one. 110%.
You can give the average guy a placebo, and they'll swear that they got an edge.
Yep.
But that just goes to show the fragile mental state that the boxers are in. If you need that, I had one guy that would sit back and drink 6-7 cans of Red Bull. I said, "What are you drinking that for?" When you crash on the stuff, you're going to be totally exhausted, you know. But he drank the Red Bull thinking that was going to give him an edge.
Yeah, it's an illusion, really, isn't it?
Right.
And the side effects afterwards. When you crash bad.
When you crash bad. Yeah. Exactly.
And another thing is, I mean, I remember when I was younger, we used creatine, and it wasn't a banned substance, and you could use creatine to build muscle for strength. Now, at the end of the day, what you can become if you're not careful is rely on the creatine rather than working on your technique to improve your technique. You think, I've got this creatine, it's making me stronger. But hold on, that's not helping you keep your guard up. That's not helping you block a right hand or slip a left hook. Or
I tried the creatine.
Yes.
I tried the creatine myself.
Okay.
I tried the creatine, and just for myself, just for my muscle tone, where I was lifting the weights, doing the push-ups, so I tried the creatine. I still have the creatine in my house. It's got to be at least 12 years old, because when I took it, my body just wouldn't allow me. It made me sick. You know, I didn't like the taste. I didn't like the reactions. So I never took it. I still got it somewhere in my house.
Wow.
I'd rather do it
the natural
way.
Absolutely. You don't feel cheating the way.
That's what makes us. Yeah, that's what makes the sport a sport. When you earn it, go out, work hard, and do what you're supposed to do. Those are things. These guys are giving themselves drugs because now it's fashionable. But the real problem is that the commissions and the sanctioning bodies will not put their foot down and say, enough is enough. If you do it, we're going to ban you from the sport. Okay. They have to take that stand.
We're definitely going to move on to that point now, because let me give you a scenario, and then you can tell me what you think. I'm a world champion. I can pack out stadiums. I make lots of money, not just for myself, but you as a boxing.
Wait a minute, you're breaking.
Sorry, can you hear me?
No, you're breaking up.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Right, I'll start again. Hey, let me give you a scenario. I'm a famous boxer. I can pack out arenas all around the world. I bring in millions and millions and millions of dollars or pounds, and I'm affiliated to 2 or 3 boxing associations or organizations, and I am on the juice. But you know what? I'm on the juice, but between me and you, or between me and the organizations, I give them a cut of whatever I earn. So I may earn 20 million, and out of that, or 30 million, and out of that 30 million, you get 3 or 4 million in your back pocket. Keep your mouth shut. Let's not talk about drug testing, and we move on. Is this possible?
Yeah, I can see that. I see that happening, yeah.
So it could happen?
Yeah, because people are influenced about how much money that they can make. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
You know?
And how about me controlling a network or having a control over a certain part of the world and having my fights, all my fights there. And then all the rules, I can control the referee, I can control the judges, and guess what? I can control the anti-doping agency, so I could basically put anything in my body. So that means that I could dope myself up and be completely on the juice, but yet nobody's going to say anything about it because nobody's going to question me about the drugs in my body, because guess what? We're all pals. So everyone's making money. I can keep on to my world titles forever. Before I'd get knocked out. Now I'm not getting knocked out because my chin suddenly has improved over the years, but before it didn't. And now I can reign for a long time and be known as one of the best fighters in the world. What do you think?
Right. I can easily see that happening. It's just, I can easily see that happening. I don't think that the integrity is first and foremost like it should be. I think that when money comes in the picture, a lot of things changes. I mean, you look at the federal police in Mexico. They come in, the drug dealers come in, they say, "Hey, look, what do you earn? What do you earn? 50,000 a year? Okay, you can earn 50,000 a trip. I'll give you 50,000 a trip. Every time you let my mules go through this border, I'll give you 50,000. So right there, it tampers with integrity.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you got a job making 50,000 a year, but here goes somebody who's going to give you 50,000 for every time you let one of their drug mules go across the border, and that could be 100 times a year. So you know that yes, it tampers with integrity. You know, some people can be bought and other people can't be bought. And the people that can't be bought is far and few in between. Money. So this is what the boxers in the world are up against now. It's the high tech. Look at Lance Armstrong.
Yeah.
Look at Lance Armstrong. He had all of those titles and stuff. And I don't know whether he met with Oprah yet to confess that he had been using it or not. I haven't read anything. But still, you have people who can be bought with this money, and that's a big problem.
Let me flip it another way to you, okay, Mr. Bashir? Let me throw it this way to you. Let's say that one of your fighters, yeah, he's unbeaten or he's a world champion.
You're breaking up again.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Let's imagine one of your fighters let's say he's a world champion and he's bringing in money, but he's not doing things the way the commission want or the way that the boxing federation wants, and he's not defending against their golden boy, for example, and they want to get your fighter out of boxing or discredit his career despite him having great boxing ability. Couldn't that turn around and say at one fight and say, you know, one of Bashir's fighters failed the drugs test? That could automatically destroy a fighter's career, even if it's not true.
Yes. Because if it's not true, even though the fighter may be able to prove that it's not true, the damage is already done.
Done. Exactly.
Because of the accusation. The accusations that he did do it creates a problem.
So it's a new way of...
It's like...
Okay.
It's called the assassination of character.
Yeah, character assassination. That's the one I was just about to say.
If you're in a public place, all right, you're in a public place, a meeting or anything, and anywhere, to most of the places in the world, if you're in a public place and a woman walks in and says, "That's the guy that raped me," that's the guy that raped me. Even though you may be able to prove I couldn't have done it because I was here. Even though you may be able to prove it, that part of the story will never make highlights. The thing that'll make highlights is the fact that you were accused. That will take precedence over your saying, "No, I couldn't have done it because I was at another place." So that's what the people will remember. Because if you were ever accused again, they'll always point back to the first case and say, You were accused in 2013 in January of rape. Now here it is 2017 and you're being accused again. They'll always go back to that case because the accusation, not because it was the truth, but because of the accusation. And it shows that the accusation is stronger than even the truth.
Yeah, I understand that, but that's evil. That's evil. That's what that is.
Yes, evil.
Evil to the point where, people's hard work and dedication. Let's imagine me as a young boy, wanting to one day dream to be the middleweight champion of the world, and I do all the hard work and I do all the dedication and I fight and I get beat and I come back and I win a world title. I accomplish my dream. I do it through hard work, dedication, great technical skill, experience, great trainer. I do it because of those things. And then somebody turns around and then says that I failed a drug test. My career is in jeopardy and it will never be the same. My legacy is never going to be the same again. No matter what happens, he's a drugs cheat. And boxing fans are very quick to jump on the bandwagon and say, yeah, he's a boxing cheat. That's the end of him. However, there are situations that people are blatantly, they've done things and the boxing board have not responded in the way that we would like to have seen.
That's the truth. That's the truth, because you got to even ask yourself, a lot of those people might be on the payroll. A lot of those people might be on the payroll.
Yep.
I watch decisions all of the time. And those decisions, I wonder why nobody says nothing. How can this be?
Let me ask you a question. While we're at it, let me ask you a question. Did you see the Adamek and Cunningham fight?
Yes, I was there.
Right. Now.
I was there live.
Were you, in what capacity were you there? Just as a spectator, or you...
I was there. Of course, I was there as the trainer of Eddie Chambers. I mean, I was there out of curiosity. Would they dare do the same thing they did with Eddie Chambers? And they did just that. Even worse, I thought that Stevie Cunningham beat Adamek more clearer than Eddie Chambers did.
Wow, and he beat him, I thought.
Of course, Eddie Chambers was really, and his progress was impeded because of the torn bicep.
Right.
Everybody knows that he had a torn bicep. So his progress in that fight was impeded because of the torn bicep. But Stevie Cunningham beat him fair and square.
I couldn't believe. First I heard draw. I thought, this don't sound right. And then within 30 seconds they changed the decision to being a win for Adamek. I'm like, what?
Yes.
I thought that can't be right.
And I protested it. I protested it at the post-fight press conference. I said, this is bad for boxing. Even Adamek's handler, Ziggy, said that Adamek got a early Christmas gift tonight.
Absolutely.
So even his handler knew it,
I'm gonna.
Everyone realized.
Go ahead.
Everyone realizes he lost it.
I mean, decisions like that hurt boxing, and fans will look at that and think, well, what's the point in watching Adamek watch a fight of Adamek? Because as long as you don't knock Adamek out and he goes to points, he wins the fight.
Well, I think that his next fight will be the end of him. I think that next fight he gets stopped, and if he doesn't get stopped, he'll get beat so bad they can't possibly steal it. He's going to fight Kubrat Pulev, Bulgaria, and I think that Pulev stops him.
Really?
I think Pulev stops Adamek. I don't think that Adamek is in the same class at this stage of his career to fight Pulev. Pulev is going to stop him.
Wow.
He's going to beat him up and he's going to stop him.
Wow. I thought Adamek more or less looked like a punching bag in this fight. I thought Adamek was actually going to be in at the heavyweight division. I thought he may have dropped Cunningham and finished him off. It didn't happen. Cunningham showed fast hands, great boxing movement, and his chin looked pretty decent in the heavyweight division.
He looked tired. Adamek looked tired in that fight, and slow.
Yes, he did. Very much so. He looked like the hard fights had caught up with him finally.
Yeah. Yeah, the hard fights have caught up with him, and I think that he's done. You know.
Wow. And so what about now of Cunningham now and his preparations as a heavyweight? How do you think he'll go in the future? I mean, there's talk about him fighting Tyson Fury. What do you think?
Who?
Tyson Fury.
And who?
Steve Cunningham. They're talking about that fight possibly happening.
Oh no, I don't see that. I think Steve loses that fight. I think Tyson Fury is too big and too strong for him, and Steve is not a really big puncher. I just think that's not a good fight for him. I don't see him doing anything with Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is very young, very strong, very big, very active. It's just too many minuses and not enough plus for Stevie Cunningham to win that fight.
Then let me ask you a better question. How would Steve Cunningham have done with David Haye back in the cruiserweight division?
I think he would have had problems with David Haye. Because David's such a heavy-handed guy. I looked at the times that Steve has been dropped.
Okay.
He gets knocked down. He takes risk. And he takes those kind of risks with David Haye because he's such a hard puncher. So I think Steve would have had some problems with David Haye. I wouldn't count Steve out because he's a great boxer.
Okay.
But because of his heart at that time, he just has so much heart that his heart gets him in trouble. He gets into fights that he doesn't have to get in. I think if he boxed David Haye, it would be a much better fight. But it's hard to pick a win in that fight, you know?
I mean, Haye's not known to have the greatest chin, you know.
No, he's not. And Stevie punches sharp enough to hurt David.
That's what I'm saying. So it'd been a good fight.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Okay, go ahead.
Stevie punches sharp enough to really hurt David Haye.
Okay.
But at the same time, Stevie couldn't get in the way of David's punches because David can really, he punches good. He
can indeed. One fighter that I loved in the cruiserweight division was Evander Holyfield.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Evander Holyfield would have knocked out David Haye.
Yes, in the cruiserweight division. He would have. He
knocked him out.
He was a great cruiserweight.
He'd have knocked him out. He'd have knocked him out. He'd have knocked him out because David Haye couldn't hurt Holyfield. Holyfield has been in with big punches his whole career, and nobody can get him out of there. You know, I think that he'd have stopped David Haye because he was too tough, and he's a workaholic. You know, he's never going to stop working until he gets you. You know, so Holyfield beats David Haye by knockout. I don't think Stevie Cunningham could have beat Holyfield either. Just too active.
Wow. As a cruiserweight, would you have said he was the greatest cruiserweight of all time?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I think he's the best cruiserweight ever.
Wow. But he was a great cruiserweight.
I don't think there's ever been a greater cruiserweight than Evander Holyfield.
Wow. I mean, I remember at one point, even he was being accused of tampering with some drugs. With
I can see it. I can see that. I can see it.
Because obviously Evander...
I hope it's not true.
I hope
it's not true, but I can see him using some drugs. His physique was just too perfect.
Wow.
Evander Holyfield his physique was just too perfect. You know? I mean, when you see physiques like Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson, it makes you wonder, is there some drugs being used here? Look at their physiques. How could a human being get their body that fine, that condition? Look at Larry Holmes, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier. Look at those guys' bodies. Look at their bodies. Their bodies were never like that, dear. Evander Holyfield, Mike Tyson's bodies were chiseled. They looked like they walked straight out of a mountain or something.
Wow.
It was rich, and it was every muscle, every curve was correct and where it was supposed to be. So it makes you wonder: is there some drugs being used to get like that?
Well, I guess in that situation we may never find out. But anybody who moves from the cruiserweight division up to the heavyweight division, the question would be asked, because Roy Jones was accused of it as well, and they said they found evidence that Roy Jones was on it, and Roy Jones is one of my favourite fighters. So when I heard the news, I mean, that to me, that doesn't take away the fact for me, Roy is one of the best fighters I've ever seen. His hand speed, his movement, his ability to avoid punches.
Roy Jones was a superb fighter.
Yes.
He was a superb fighter. You know, I just think that the things that really will come back to haunt Roy is the fact that he didn't go into Europe to fight Eubank, Nigel Benn,
Steve Collins,
whom
I'm hearing a story, but I believe that Roy Jones and Steve Collins are possibly going to get it on, even now.
Who cares? I'm like, who cares? I mean, what is that there? I mean, you know, when it mattered, I think that Roy should, I still say, and I always say it, you know, Muhammad Ali and Ray Robinson used to go into Europe and fight European fighters like it was around the corner.
They did.
You understand?
They did.
They didn't care because I'm the champion of the world. I'm a world champion. World champions fight anywhere, and they don't worry about losing on if somebody cheating them and stuff. They say, I'm the world champion. I'm coming to defend. Let the people see who won. They might be able to steal the title, but they can't steal what the people see. That was the thing. They cannot steal what the people see. So when they give these guys wins over this guy, for money's sake, they're going to get some more money because they won the fight. But the people see and they know who the champion really is. So Roy, I think, hurt himself when he did not go there to fight those guys. Now he's going all over the world to fight. Going to Russia, Poland. He should have done that when he was young. In my opinion, Roy Jones, the time for him to get out of boxing was right after he beat Ruiz.
That's what
I had walked away from boxing.
That's exactly what I said. I did it in a video. I thought that was the best time for him to get away. I think what hurt Roy is when he came back down to the light heavyweight division.
Of course. That was his ego. That was his ego, going back down to the light heavyweight division, taking off all of that muscle because he didn't have no fat. So he took off all of that muscle to go back down there. He was in a position, his brain trust, the people around him should have said, no, you don't go back to the light heavyweight division. If Tarver wants to fight, Tarver has to come up to cruiserweight.
Right.
And fight. But Roy, being the egotistic guy he was, went back down, and he struggled to win that fight.
And then the second fight, we all know what happened.
Right.
And
right after he beat the fight. Yep. Walk away. I gave you your shot. You lost the decision. I'm out of here. No rematches. He should have walked away, and he could have lived forever. He could have lived forever off of those wins. He could live forever, you know? It just makes sense.
How would Roy have done against Eubank and Ben?
I think that he would have beat both of them.
Okay.
But he would have had a much tougher time than the guys he was fighting here in America.
So you don't think Ben could have hurt him?
I think Ben and Eubank, I think both of them could have hurt him. But I don't think they could have beaten him. Because Roy was really a gifted fighter. So I don't think that they had what it takes to beat him. That's why I couldn't understand why he don't go there to fight him.
Did you see the fight when Ben fought McLennan?
Yes.
And what did you think? I know that Ben got knocked out of the ring in the first round. A lot of people debate and say, well, Ben should have been out of the fight.
He beat it. No, he beat him. He beat the count. He got back in time. He beat the count.
And your view of Nigel Benn?
Nigel Benn was a fighter. He was a fighter, and he came to fight. You know, he was a fighter, and he came to fight. And I respect Nigel Benn.
Wow.
I have great respect for Nigel Benn. I have great respect for Chris Eubank because they were fighters. You know, I mean, Nigel Benn did what he did. had to do to maintain his reputation and the championship of the world. So I don't have anything bad to say about Nigel Benn.
Steve Collins.
Steve Collins? Yeah, what about him?
Well, Collins beat both Benn and Eubank, albeit when they were coming to the end of their careers.
Right.
Yeah, people would say, well, Eubank was unbeaten when he fought Collins, but Eubank had already had that awful situation with him and Chris and Michael Watson. So Eubank was never the same fighter after the Watson fight. He was very cautious. So Eubank was nowhere the animal that he was.
Yeah, Eubank and Nigel Benn fighting Steve Collins was like Rocky Marciano fighting Walcott and Charles. Same thing. Same scenario. Those guys were at the end of the road.
Yeah.
So of course they weren't the fighters that they were. It's no fault of Collins, but the timing made the difference in those fights.
What would he have done?
Collins didn't fight them.
What would Collins have done against Roy Jones then?
Collins, Roy would have beat him on natural athletic ability.
Okay.
Roy would have boxed circles around Collins. You know? He would have boxed circles around Collins. I don't think Collins could have kept up with Roy Jones. Roy Jones was a very unorthodox and at times very sharp puncher that can hurt you.
Yes.
So I see him slipping past Collins. I see him outpointing him, outslicking him, outsmarting him.
Let's imagine that Nigel Benn never did fight McLennan and Roy Jones was to fight him. I know Roy Jones was always wary about fighting Gerald McLennan.
Nigel Benn could cause problems. He could cause problems. I see Roy outslicking him, outsmarting him.
Okay.
You know? But Nigel Benn was a rugged, tough bricklayer. You know, he could punch.
Okay.
He was aggressive, but Roy Jones was a different kind of athlete, you know? Very unorthodox. You never saw where the punches were coming from.
Yes.
And those punches that you don't see are the punches that hurt you.
What about the G-man, Gerald McLennan?
Gerald McClellan is a dark horse in this whole thing. He's a hard puncher. And when you got a guy that punches like Gerald McClellan, it's like walking through a minefield. Once you hit a click, it's over.
Yeah.
Everybody was weary of Gerald McClellan. I think what happened with Gerald McClellan, I think it's something that happened before he fought Nigel Benn. I think there was a pre-existing danger inside of him before he fought that particular fight. That fight just exposed it.
Wow.
But I think he already had some problems before he got in the ring.
Wow.
You know?
Wow. And that fight, obviously, a brutal fight, obviously exposed that.
Well, nobody ever, most people who watch boxing have no idea about the sparring sessions that took place in the Kronk Gym up in Detroit. And Gerald McClellan was in a lot of those sparring sessions. So I think that there's no scientific proof, but I do believe that his problem was a pre-existing problem, and that happened before he fought Nigel Benn. It just all came down when he fought Nigel Benn.
Wow. That was some fight. Now let me touch on Eddie Chambers,
Okay.
who I believe you're training now, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm meant to be doing an interview with Eddie later, but and he is a fighter with immense talent and ability. Now I want to kind of give you an example of a fight. Chad Dawson, Andre Ward, and the way Chad Dawson lost the weight to come down to fight Andre Ward, and the fact he hadn't fought Andre, and he hadn't fought as a super middleweight for many years, so automatically he's conceding strength, punch resistance, ability suddenly is not the same because you can't move or do the things you would do in the division that you are in, the light heavyweight division. That's where he does coming down to super middleweight, and he's an older fighter doing that, surely there would have been some problems there. And in my pre-fight prediction, I predicted that Ward would be able to hurt Dawson very easily because he'd be weight trained.
And my prediction was virtually the same thing. When I first heard that he was going to make 168, moving down from 175, I said, this is bad for him. He's been 75 for at least the last 7, 8 years, and all of a sudden he's going to just take the weight off and go down to 68. I said it's going to affect him. I don't care who it is. If you're 75, you walk around at 89, 90, and then all of a sudden you're going to come down to 68, it's going to affect you. People say, no, he'll have time to put the weight back on. What they don't realize is that when they lose that weight, they got to come in that day at 68 and fight the next night. And they come up, well, he came in to fight. He's come in to fight. He's 178 pounds. But what they don't realize is that it takes time for the anatomy to distribute that food to their proper places. The calves, the biceps, the triceps, the glutes, the thighs. It takes time for the body to break the food down and distribute that. And one day is not enough time, because you may wait the day of the fight at 6 o'clock, then you can fight 9 o'clock the next night. It just doesn't give the body enough time to distribute that food and turn it into energy and power.
A lot of boxing fans are misled by a lot of the boxing commentators. Oh yeah, last night we weighed in 168. Now he's going to be around 170, 175 pounds for the fight. Yeah, that he would have been rehydrated and ready for the fight. And you're thinking, well, hold on a second, that's not quite.
No.
But a boxing, HBO
He's not going to be rehydrated. He's going to be re-weighted, but not hydrated. Well, it takes time to turn that food into hydration and energy. It takes time.
And that's why a lot of these fighters, so-called fighters that have catchweight fights and catchweight world titles, they fight these guys that are coming from lower weight divisions, or they're dropping from one division to come down to another just to fight the name. I mean, another fight, a prime example, and I still don't get it, why Oscar De La Hoya fought Manny Pacquiao at 142 pounds. Why would you do that?
Ego. Ego.
It's stupidity, I think.
Yeah. Stupidity at the tune of $10 million.
Yeah, I guess so. But I think if the fight was meant like...
So he $10, $12 million. So who's really stupid? The people that bought the pay-per-view. Tell me. The people who bought the pay-per-view, not Oscar, not Manny. Oscar got about $15 million for the fight.
Yeah, and he took a whole heap of punches for it as well, and his career in tatters.
Right, but Oscar De La Hoya at that time, his legacy was already sealed. I'm just hustling, and you know what? I like what he did. He lost to Manny Pacquiao. He never fought again. Did he? He never fought after Pacquiao, right?
Lots of rumors about him coming back the last year. Loads of rumors of Oscar coming back and stuff, but I don't know. He hasn't come back since, so far, yet.
Yeah, he doesn't need to come back. Like I said, he can't do nothing but ruin his reputation now,
Absolutely.
I mean, everybody can forgive him for the Pacquiao loss. Stay out of it. You've done everything you could do in the sport. Stay out of it. Everybody respects him as a good fighter, as an exciting fighter. Stay out of it. Stay out of it. It's done.
So
I saw that Trinidad was trying to get a fight with De La Hoya.
I heard
Trinidad was trying to make the fight. Was trying to make the fight with De La Hoya.
While we're on the subject of fighters losing weight, now Eddie Chambers has spoken about he's got a fight against Denis Lebedev, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now he's coming. How is his preparations going in terms of making the weight from a cruiserweight?
We haven't even begun. He just got cleared by the doctor,
Okay.
To go back into the boxing training. He just got cleared this past weekend, and now we're going to start the training, preparing. But we don't have a date yet. We don't know what's going on yet. We're waiting for the promoters to hash out the details, and then we'll really step it up then. But we'll get back into the gym next week and start working.
Right. Would it not be? Are you considering having a warm-up fight before that fight, because he's coming from heavyweight down to cruiserweight?
No.
So what's the
Eddie Chambers?
Go ahead.
Eddie Chambers has been a cruiserweight his whole career. He's been a cruiserweight fighting at heavyweight. But if you notice, his most meaningful fights has never been over 215. They're always 215 and below.
Okay.
All right? 215 was artificial weight because he had a lot of body weight on him that was in excess, fat. Okay. But when he started eating right, you see that he always came in 208, 209, and the Adamek fight 202. So Eddie Chambers is not a big transition for him to box at cruiserweight because he's been a cruiserweight his whole career.
Okay, so
when he fought Dimitrenko. He fought Dimitrenko at what? If you look at the record, if you look at box record, I think he fought Dimitrenko at 209. That's cruiserweight.
So how much does he have to weigh to come into a world championship fight? How much would he weigh at the cruiserweight division?
2 pounds. 2 pounds less than he had for Adamek.
Okay, and that won't have any effect on his performance in terms of his boxing skills and having to go the distance or his punch resistance.
No, I think that his punching power will be greater.
Yes.
I think his speed will be greater.
Yes.
I think his overall skills is going to be greater at cruiserweight. That's why I suggested to him and influenced him to move to the cruiserweight division. It'll be 3-4 years before we get another shot at the heavyweight championship. But here we are at cruiserweight. Our first fight out is going to be for the for the cruiserweight championship. I think that we should go directly after the title. I don't think that we should fight anybody. I think that if Lebedev was man enough to say, hey, I want Eddie Chambers, you don't turn, and my philosophy is you don't turn away titles right. Eddie Chambers is an experienced fighter. He can do that. Another fighter with less experience, I'd say, nah, you need 3 or 4 more fights before you fight for the title. But Eddie Chambers has been in the world championship fight. He's been in there with Dimitrenko, Samuel Peter, all of these different fighters, Calvin Brock.
Yes.
And all these guys. He has all the experience he needs. He doesn't need to fight any other fight. He needs to take the advantage. He needs to take the advantage of being offered a shot at the world championship. Yes. So in my mind, we're gonna fight that in his very first fight.
So that's excellent news. I'm sure a lot of boxing fans are definitely looking forward to it. I, for one, am definitely looking forward to it. The other thing is, in my analysis of the fight, I believe that obviously Eddie is the far better boxer, much better boxer, boxing skill, higher skill set. My only concern, or two concerns, are Lebedev's left hand and Eddie losing concentration in the bout. Those are the only two things. Other than that, I don't see how Lebedev beats him.
What? Point out to a fight that Eddie has lost his concentration.
It hasn't happened, but I'm saying if it were to happen, that's what I'm saying. Concentration.
Nah, Eddie Chambers is a cat. In the ring, he's like a cat. His time, his reflexes, and concentration are always intact. He always knows where he's at and where his opponent is at.
But is there any possibility, because he's fought in the heavier weight division? That he's fought in a heavyweight division. Well, okay, I fought in a heavyweight division. I fought bigger guys, stronger guys. The mentality could be, I'm coming to the cruiserweight division. I'm going to be a big cruiserweight. I'm going to be a strong cruiserweight. So there's nothing you can throw and hit me with that I've got anything to worry about. Could he misunderestimate that because he's moving down? Whereas in the heavyweight division, he's concerned about the power.
Not a chance. Just not that kind of guy.
Okay.
He's just not that kind of guy. He's not the kind of guy that's going to put his face out there. He's not the kind of guy that's going to be disrespectful of Lebedev. He understands that Lebedev is the world champion.
Yes.
We understand that we're fighting. We understand that we're fighting for the world champion.
Right. One final question I must ask. The question was asked on my YouTube page after I was asking questions about the fight. Somebody asked me a question, said to me, Eddie Chambers, the reason why he's getting injured all the time is because of new school training. Is that true? These new school techniques, or what do you think?
I think Eddie and I, we clash on that there. You know, Eddie doesn't seem to think so. I don't think it has anything to do with boxing. I think that his injuries has to do with the stuff that he's doing in his conditioning.
Okay.
I really don't like conditioning coaches. I don't think there's no place in boxing for them. I know that there are countless people out there who will disagree with me. But I'm just saying, okay, where were you guys at during the time of Joe Louis, Ray Robinson, Muhammad Ali, Saad Muhammad, Eddie Mustafa, all these fighters that Henry Armstrong and Benny Leonard, and it goes on and on and on and on. Where were the conditioning coaches for those guys? And those guys fought up with the 90 and 100 fights.
They were either being born or sitting down watching the fighters do this stuff.
Right. So in my opinion,
yes,
they have created jobs for
themselves.
Right. They create, and that's the only thing I give them credit for, creating jobs for themselves. But they come in and they put a lot of bullshit into the fighters' heads about you're going to be so strong in the 8th round and so strong in the 10th round. You're going to be able to explode in the 12th round. How the fuck would you know? Excuse me, expression. How the fuck would you know? And you have never been in the ring.
And never fought.
You have never taken
a punch yourself.
You never took a punch. You never took a punch. You never had to go 3 rounds. So how are you going to tell me what's going to be there? No, I think that the conditioning. I think that the conditioning thing is a bunch of bull. You understand? I may be wrong. You understand?
I'm glad you said it. And only an old school trainer would say something like this, but it's true because they
created jobs.
Muhammad Ali didn't need it.
They cannot come up with any scientific proof. They cannot come up with anything scientific to show their cause, to prove their cause. That I'm making the fighter better, and I'm going to make the fighter. You cannot prove that. When you look at Benny Leonard, when you look at all the old fighters of the past generations who had upward to 200 fights, some guys were fighting 3 and 4 times in a month. You understand? They were fighting every other 6 weeks without injury, without setback. And if they did have the setbacks, somehow they masked them without drugs and without conditioning coaches. So now here we are with conditioning coaches, and they come up with all of these plans about how good you're going to be in the 8th round and what you're going to do in the 4th round and what you're going to be able to do in the 12th round. And you haven't even thrown a punch. No, I think it's bullshit.
I'm glad you said it.
And I'll go on record saying it. I think it's bullshit.
But the whole thing is,
these guys.
This stuff is brilliant for HBO and Showtime when they're promoting the fight. Yeah, so-and-so's got a strength and conditioning coach. And then interview the strength and conditioning coach and going, yeah, man, he's going to be he's going to be in shape, and he's going to go to 12 rounds, and he's going to be strong, he's going to be stronger than he ever was, he'll be punching harder, and he still gets knocked out, So it's quite funny. But boxing fans love that.
You look at Ariza.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. Alex Ariza.
Okay. He had Manny Pacquiao.
Uh-huh.
And he had what's the other kid? The junior welterweight kid. That just Amir Khan.
Amir Khan.
Khan goes out and gets beat by Peterson. He goes out and he gets knocked out by the other kid. Now he goes a high-tech coach, high-tech, high-level coach, Ariza. Every time I turn the internet on, this guy, Ariza says this, Ariza says that, Ariza says this. Where the hell did Ariza come from? Who is he?
You tell me.
Who is this guy? Every time I turn the internet on, it's 3-4 articles. Ariza said this, and Ariza says that, and Ariza said this. He's not the trainer. Freddie Roach is the trainer. But they've got 3 or 4 or 5 articles on every website. Ariza is the champion. Ariza, he says that Pacquiao will be able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Amir Khan will run through this guy. Amir Khan will do this. But who is Ariza? He's a guy who created a job for himself.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And he's doing a snow job on the websites. He's doing a snow job on all of the people who believe in that crap. You understand? Boxers have been around for many years. Many, many years. And you can go all the way back before Ray Robinson, and you won't find any mention of conditioning coaches. You found old school methods. They got up in the morning and they ran mountains and highways and byways. They came in, they hit the heavy bag, they hit the speed bag, they skipped rope, they did the double impact. Even with this here, with this hand pad stuff, that's a bunch of malarkey. It's a bunch of malarkey. Everybody puts so much emphasis on mitts, handwork. Man, I'll pad them up. I'll pad them up. I'll make them sharp and this, that. Let me tell you something. As a youngster, I don't remember using hand pads. I never used hand pads. We came in the gym. We did the speed bag.
Yes.
We had the peanut bag, the smallest speed bag they made. We used the peanut speed bag. The small one at that time, the smallest one they made. We used the speed bag, and we used the double end bag.
Yes.
And the trainers made motions with their hands, but we never used any pads. Now the modern fighter, everybody comes in the gym that has some hand pad. Man, I'm getting ready to pad them up. Man, I'll let them walk the punching bag. They had this little thing they hold in their stomach, and they walking around the ring.
Yeah. Ricky Hatton's one of the first guys to see doing that.
And they punching that thing, and I see him with this vest on that they wear, that they let them punch on. No, that's a bunch of malarkey.
My train's very old school as well. I don't know if you know, his name's Ronnie Rush. He trained, and when when he used to train me, there were no pads.
What's his name?
Ronnie Rush.
Ronnie
Rush. He's based in Wales, and we never used pads. What he did, he had his bare hands, and I had to hit the target with his hands, at the target. Right. If I missed that target by trying to throw a jab, he would slap me in my face so hard. He said, "There you go. You should put your hand up." You know, putting the newspaper under.
Let me ask you something. Do you know a guy? Do you know the guy Richard Towers?
Yes, I know Richard Towers. Heavyweight.
Richard Towers. Yes, he's a heavyweight, and he lives in Sheffield.
Yes.
I'm gonna come to Sheffield. When I do, I'm gonna tell you, but I'm definitely going to make a trip to Sheffield because I love that young man. He's a very studious young man, and I think that he could do some things. He just has to be trained properly. You know, I think if Ricky Hatton, and I'm saying this in all sincerity, I think if Ricky Hatton had me in his corner when he fought the last fight, he would have won the fight. You see, the difference is making adjustments. The trainer is not the guy in the corner that's a cheerleader. The trainer is the discerned eye who knows when to make adjustments. He knows when to put the signal light on to go left or right. You understand? He knows when to apply and when to cease. You understand? These guys don't know. He was getting in a fight with a guy that he didn't have to get in a fight with because he was winning the fight. So when you're winning the fight, what you need to do is secure the win and worry about looking good the next time. Ricky Hatton, all he had to do was just take the foot off the brakes, off the gas pedal, and just coast because he had won it. And nobody could blame him for doing that because he was just coming back. But he's going out there trying to make something happen. He got hit with a good body punch and he couldn't get up. So it's the little things that makes you a winner or makes you a loser. You understand? It's the very little things. And no offense to the English trainers, but I don't see any English trainers that I would really look up to. You understand? I don't think nothing of English trainers. I see them make so many mistakes. Maybe I don't know them all. You understand? And I won't say all of them is like that, but for the ones I've seen, who's it? Terry Lawless.
He's
Mickey
gone.
Duff.
They're
Yeah.
I think promoter. What we got
Yeah,
now? Trainers. We've got Adam
Those
Booth.
guys.
Adam Booth, the trainer of David Hay.
He doesn't show me anything.
But you've been in the game for almost 40 years. There's a big difference, and not a lot of those guys around anymore.
Right.
And to work with so many world champions, gosh.
I think that these guys are working on fumes. When I'm watching trainers, when I'm watching boxing, I'm watching the corners to see what I can learn from the trainers.
Or what they're saying in the corner.
Yes, that's why I'm paying attention to what they're saying in the corner, because this is something that I could use. I got my pad and pencil out, mental pad and pencil out. I'm watching the trainers so I can see if I can pick up on anything from them that I can learn from. And if I can pick up on them, I'll give them credit for it. But I don't see it. I just don't see it.
You're right. I do hear a lot of cheerleaders and a lot of fighters. I mean, I saw one corner in one particular bout not too long ago. One of our unbeaten fighters were fighting top contender, and the corner actually started panicking because their unbeaten fighter was on the verge of getting beaten and getting knocked out. And they were in the corner. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? What do you think you're doing? And I'm like, hold on, you should be trying to give your fighter some instructions as to what to do when they're under pressure. But obviously, if your fighter's not being put under pressure in the gym, and he's knocking everybody over in the gym, and he's not being given the hard sparring necessary, then when you go in a big fight and you fight guys who've been in tough fights, they can take your best shot, and it can keep coming forward and keep coming forward. If your fighter's never done that before, never been in a fight like that before, it's very difficult when you get them back to the corner and start saying, do this, do that, do this, because your fighter hasn't done it. And then you, as a trainer, don't expect your fighter to get themselves in that sort of a situation.
Right. Well, that's the case, you know. I mean, you know, this kid Richard Towers, I watched him with Vladimir Klitschko. And let me tell you, he's a tough kid. He got dropped a couple of times in that camp.
Okay.
He got dropped a couple of times in the camp with Vladimir Klitschko. And when I say dropped, I mean dropped.
Okay.
But he got up, and he came back out boxing, you know. He didn't lose his composure. And I was shocked that he told me thereafter, hey, this is the 10th guy that I've ever sparred in my life. I said, only the 10th guy. He said, I've only boxed with 10 people in my life.
Whoa.
And I was shocked that he was able to be in there with the world champion, you know, and he's in there with the world champ, and he's holding his own.
Wow.
And he got dropped down a couple of times, you know.
But he came back.
Yeah, he came back. Actually, Vladimir took him to Germany with us, and he never does that. He never takes anybody with us when we go to the fight site. He took Richard with us, so he was impressed with him too.
Wow.
So he's in a minority because he never takes any sparring partners to the fight site, and he took Richard with us. I like Richard. He's a very studious young man, and I think that he can grow as a heavyweight fighter. He just needs proper training. That's all, you know.
While you talk about heavyweight fighters, there's a guy I've been looking at for a while. I'm quite interested in him. His name's Byron Jennings.
Yeah, Jennings. I think Richard knocks Byron Jennings out.
Really?
Yeah. I think that Richard Towers knocks out Jennings. I think he knocks him out. I think he puts him to sleep.
Wow, that's a huge statement.
Yeah, well, you can put that, you can put it in writing. I think that Richard Towers knocks out Brian Jennings. You understand? I
What,
think that
what do you think of
I
Bright
think that
Jennings? He's an American fighter, of course. So what do you think of
he's
Bright
a good
Jennings?
fight. He's a good fighter. He's a good fighter, but he cannot beat Richard Towers. I think that if he fights Michael Sprott knocks him out.
What? Michael Sprott as well? Wow.
He knocks out Jennings. Michael Sprott is a tough guy, man. I've seen him in over 50 rounds with Vladimir Klitschko. And Vladimir Klitschko hit him with some major league stuff, and it didn't stop Michael Sprott. I've seen Michael Sprott fight Alexander Ustinov.
Yes.
And Ustinov couldn't even put a dent in him. So, yeah, I think those are two English fighters that I think very highly of.
What do you think of
Michael Sprott.
What about the Bronze Bomber? A lot of people are giving him flack for not fighting decent opponents. Deontay Wilder.
I think that Deontay Wilder is a fighter to be reckoned with. He's a very powerful puncher. You know, his ability to take a punch. Let's see what happens. You know, everybody can punch, but you got to see how. And I'm worried. What I worry about the tall fighters is when those guys that are tall, their anatomy, in many cases, are not made for taking punches. So if they can formulate a good defense where they don't have to worry about taking punches, then those guys can win. Richard Towers, Deontay Wilder. But what the trainers have to do is they have to work on defenses where they don't get hit. Because the average tall fighter, Lennox Lewis, Vladimir Klitschko, Towers, Wilder, all of those guys are the same. Tall guys are not made to take punches. What tall fighter do you know over the years that can take a punch? Look at Henry Akinwande. He was beating Oliver McCall for what? 10 rounds. Oliver McCall threw a Hail Mary right hand in the 10th round and knocked him out. You show me one tall fighter in history.
Valuev?
Valuev?
Yes.
Valuev, you can't get to him to land a punch.
Holyfield landed a few on him.
Shit, man.
And Hay wobbled him in the last round.
Yeah, but they couldn't land him with leverage because he's so tall. By the time the punch gets there, by the time the punch gets there, most of the power is gone.
That's pretty true.
So Valuev is 7 feet 2 inches tall.
Yeah, he's
these guys come in at 6'1", 6'2", 6'3", 6'4" at the most, and by the time the punch reaches up there to land a punch, you saw Monty Barrett hurt him in the first round of that fight. You saw that. Very good overhand right. You understand? If he could have put something together after that, who knows when it would have happened. But the average, I didn't say every tall guy. I'm saying the average tall guy
can't
does not
take a shot.
They cannot take a shot very well, simply because the anatomy is not made for that.
Okay.
The short fighters, you take the short fighters, Mike Tyson, these short guys like that, low to the ground. What's that there? Lionel Butler,
Derek Chisora. Kind of guy.
Derek Chisora, Lionel Butler. It's another one that looked looked a lot like Mike Tyson. What's his name? Short guy, looks a lot like Mike Tyson. Him and Monty Barrett fought twice.
David Tua.
No, David Tua takes a good shot, but Mike Tyson fought. Monty Barrett and this guy fought twice, and the guy looks just like Mike Tyson. I forget his name. Okay. But he was a short fighter. All of the short guys, 6 feet, 6'1", 6'2", take tremendous punches. Joe Frazier. Yes. But you get those tall guys that go past 6'3", 6'4". 6'3" is the max.
Yeah.
Anything over 6'3", the fighters have a problem taking shots. They do not take good punches. And you can look at it with Lennox, Vladimir. Vitaly is a different kind of fighter.
He is.
He's a mental fighter.
He is.
Vitaly is a mental fighter. He's a beast in his mentality. You hit Vitaly Klitschko hard, he's gonna say, "Come on, I'm gonna break your neck." You know. So he's a rare breed. But the average tall fighter like that does not take punches well. I don't know whether it's something from the anatomy or what. But when they get hit, they go.
Maybe they don't see the punch. Maybe they don't see the punch as easy from a shorter guy.
I don't know. The pros and cons, the jury is out on the pros and cons. I don't know whether they don't see it, but what I do know is that they do not respond very well.
Okay, now I have before I come to the end of this interview, there is a point that I've tried to stress to a lot of boxing fans and they don't get it. I say to a boxing fan, look, a guy may have 25 fights and 25 KOs. You have to look at who he's fought first, and then secondly, has that guy been tested? Has he been in a tough bout? They're like, oh no, this guy's a beast because he's knocked all these guys out. I said, but he's never been hit back yet. He's never been punched back in anger. He's never had to come through a tough and grueling bout. So how can you say this guy would beat this guy when the other guy you're talking about has been through a tough fight? He's had his chin tested. He's had his heart tested. He's come through a tough fight. He may have got beaten on points. He may have been knocked out. So the guy who's unbeaten, they think suddenly, because he knocked all these guys out, he's unbeatable. But yet, if you look at the way he's been matched softly. What do you think?
A lot of guys is matched softly. I think that it's time for Deontay Wilder to step up. If he's going to be the heir apparent to the dynasty of the Klitschkos, it's time now for him to make his move. Because there is such a thing as the bus going past the stop. Now, and you take a guy like Malik Scott.
Yes, 33 or 35-0.
Yeah,
I've got question marks.
Huh?
I've got question marks as to why. There was my old trainer in America said to me, if a fighter's been in a gym for that amount of time, that record for that amount of time, then they've seen the promoters and the manager seen something in the gym and they got exposed in the gym. Therefore, that's why they matched his career the way it is. So
he's got 35. He's got 35 wins with 12 knockouts.
Yeah, you go.
That's what they see, but they cannot concern themselves about that. They need to concern themselves more about his boxing abilities.
Okay.
His boxing abilities. You understand? Muhammad Ali wasn't the greatest puncher in the world, but he'll knock you out. He'll weigh you down. The knockout comes a lot of ways. It comes from sharp punching. It comes from you punching somebody and they're not punching you. It comes from frustration, anguish. So the knockout comes from a lot of things. A lot of different scenarios create the knockout. You understand? It doesn't always come because you're George Foreman or Mike Tyson or Sonny Liston. It doesn't always come like that. It comes from a lot of things. A lot of times a guy getting hit and they can't hit you, they say, listen, that's it for now. I can't hit this guy. I'm done. Frustration mounts. So you get the knockout a lot of ways. Malik Scott got 12 knockouts in 35 fights. So it's obvious he's not a puncher. He's not a puncher. He's fighting this Ukrainian kid who they're putting on the fast track.
Yeah.
They're putting that kid on the fast track. They're saying, listen, piss or get off the pot. That kid's got, 14, 15 fights?
Yes.
You know what? Yeah. So he's got 14, 15 fights. They're saying this guy, Malik Scott, is a punk. We want Malik Scott right now. That's a bold move and a bold statement because Malik Scott is a very experienced fighter.
But
he knows his way around. He's been in there with the... Huh?
They obviously believe that the Europeans obviously think that he's this guy's the real deal. That's why they pushed him forward.
That's right. He's a tough Ukrainian. He's a tough guy. My thinking is that Malik Scott may have passed his stop. This fight will tell. Yeah. Matter of fact, I was just speaking with Eddie Chambers earlier, making arrangements, to be there at that fight. We'll travel to upstate New York to be at that fight because I'm very interested in the outcome.
Yes.
You know, I'm very interested in the outcome. I want to be ringside. I want to see that fight. But this kid can fight, this Ukrainian kid. Put it like this here, he will fight. It's yet to be proven that he can fight because the last fight he had wasn't much of a test. But it's yet to be proven that he can fight. And this fight will tell. Because with 35-0 record that Malik Scott has, he's got to prove something in this fight. And if he doesn't step up to the plate, this guy will beat him.
Okay, one other fighter, Joe Hanks. I met him in London. Do you know of Joe Hanks?
Yeah, I know Joe Hanks. He's from my hometown.
Okay. I met Joe when he was training with Derek Chisora, who I know very well as well.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think of him?
A lot of I haven't seen enough of Joe because the opposition he's fought hasn't been the greatest. So he's got skills, but it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see how he does against a better grade of opponent to really make a real judgment. But according to Chris Bird, he seems to have all the skills to pay the bills. But we'll see.
In my opinion, about fighters, their desire, their eagerness to get into a fight tells me something about their mentality, their psychic. I made reference to having the whole package. I told you years ago, the trainer told me, step away, you can't see. You don't have no reflexes. You get hit with shots that you shouldn't get hit with. You don't have the whole package. Step away, find something else to do. And it was offensive to me, but it was the truth. I knew it was the truth. So I was more offended that I didn't have it than I was with the people that was telling me I didn't have it. Joe Hanks, in my opinion, you know, he's a good boxer, good ring technique, but I'm very concerned about why he hasn't stepped up to the plate and fought nobody. He hasn't fought nobody. And he has already had an amateur career. I can understand more so if he didn't have an amateur career and wasn't fighting people. Okay, I can understand that.
Yeah.
But Joe had an amateur career. So I'm very concerned about, and then I didn't like the way I didn't like his body language when he boxed Vladimir Klitschko twice, 5 years apart. Boxed him once in the Poconos. I think he was getting ready to fight Samuel Peter, if I'm not mistaken. And then he was back in Austria with us, and neither time, and nor did the champion. The champion didn't like his body language either. He just didn't show me that, hey, I'm capable of stepping up and taking this division over. He didn't show that to me. Maybe I'm being too critical, but it's my opinion, you know?
And mentality has a hell of a lot to do with it.
Yes. He doesn't show me that championship mentality. Now, I could be wrong. I hope Joe can prove me wrong. But in my opinion, and put it like that, that's what I'm saying. In my opinion, he has to yet prove himself to me, because I don't see it. I don't see that championship attitude. The attitude that I'm going to take this division over, and I don't care who I've got to fight. I think Deontay Wilder would probably beat Joe Hanks.
Okay.
Again, the jury is out on Deontay Wilder, the ability to take punches.
Yes.
And Joe Hanks' ability to take punches, because they're fighting such low-quality fighters. You can't tell. There's no way that nobody can embrace them and say that this guy's going, because you don't know what the fighter can take. And until you know what the fighter can take, you really can't lock in on that. You can't
I keep trying to make this point to boxing fans, but they keep getting caught up in he's had 25 fights, he's had 25 knockouts. Yes, but against who? You know, when you can fight a guy that, you know, land those big punches and knock guys over with guys you know who've got credible records. If he's doing it against Vladimir Klitschko, for example, he's doing it against Tyson Fury, he's doing it against somebody in the top 10, and he's doing that, knocking them out the same way he's doing it when he was knocking out the guys of lower level, and he's still doing it, then you can say...
You're breaking up a little bit.
So,
Wait. Okay,
yeah,
go.
I said, when you can do the things that you're doing at lower level in the top 10 and still knock guys out, then people should start to embrace you. But when you do it against lower grade fighters and fans are getting behind you saying you can do it against everybody in the world, and you're next heavyweight.
Let's go back. Let me make a point to you.
Yes.
You got Joe Hanks got what, 20, 21 fights, 22 fights?
Yes.
Okay, you take a guy like Tim Witherspoon.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a guy that had no amateur career. No amateur career. In his 13th or 14th fight, he fights an undefeated Larry Holmes. And he turns in the performance of his career and just losing by a very, 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 very small margin to Larry Holmes, the premier heavyweight champion of that time. Here's a guy with only 13, 14 fights who's going against an outstanding champion. And he takes Larry to the brink, and Larry Holmes never fights him Witherspoon again. Witherspoon took him to the brink of the championship. He made Larry dig down and fight for the title. Here's a guy that had no amateur fights with only 14, 15 fights, and he's taking on the world champion. Why? Because Tim Witherspoon said, I can beat him. And when we finish this interview, you go to BoxRec and look at the people that Tim Witherspoon fought thereafter. After the Holmes fight, look at the people that he fought. Just look at the pros that he fought. He never went back to fighting gimme fights. He didn't have that many gimme fights coming up to Larry Holmes. But after that, he certainly fought up-and-coming top-notch fighters. Joe Hanks, Deontay Wilder, they're fighting cupcakes, man. Let's call it what it is, okay? I mean, if they get offended by what they read, the guys they fighting is ducks. They're there to be beaten. Deontay Wilder is a bronze medalist. He's had 25 fights. It's time to step up. You cannot enhance your credibility. You cannot win the fans over if you're fighting ducks, man.
I made this point. I said Lennox Lewis, in his 14th fight, fought for the European Championship and won it. In his 15th fight, he fought Gary.
Wait. Don't tell me the guy. Don't tell me the guy. He fought a black guy, a hard puncher.
It was one of my favorite British fighters.
Wait a minute. I know the guy he fought. Big, strong guy. Lennox knocked him out.
That stopped him. Eye trouble.
Who was that?
Gary Mason.
Gary Mason.
Right.
I don't care. It's still a knockout. A TKO to me.
TKO, yeah.
A TKO to me is just saying, I'm stopping the fight before you get knocked out.
Yeah. Yes, you're right then. So he was 30.
Gary Mason was a tough guy.
35-0, unbeaten, and ranked number 4 by the WBC. In his 15th fight.
He was 35-0.
Yes.
And Lennox knocked him out with 14 fights.
Yes, 15 fights.
Yeah.
And then Lennox went on. He went and fought Derek Williams. What's his name? Mike Weaver, Tyrell Biggs, and a few others, on his way to becoming heavyweight champion of the world.
The fights that a fighter needs to fight. These are the fights that a fighter needs to fight. Not all of those ducks. Not all of those ducks. You need to fight credible fights to make your bones, so to speak. You're not going to make your fights. You're not going to make yourself piling up your record. He's 31-0. 31 what? Cab drivers? You understand? You cannot make your bones. Lennox took on Mason in his 14th fight. What is that telling you about the mentality of Lennox Lewis? Lennox Lewis said, I'm an Olympic gold medalist. I want those guys now. You understand?
Yes.
Here, Deontay Wilder got a bronze medal. He's still fighting these guys. Who cares? When he knocked him out, everybody's like, who cares? What is he going to fight somebody?
David Price, a bronze medalist himself, is on a similar path to Deontay Wilder. He's fought Audley Harrison, knocked him out, Matt Skelton, and now he's going to fight America's Tony Thompson.
That's a good test for him.
You think so?
Yeah, I think Tony Thompson is a good test for him. I think Tony Thompson is a good test for David Price. I think Price will knock him out. I think David Price will knock him out, but it's a good test for him.
Well,
depending on what Tony Thompson
shows
left.
up. Exactly, because I think
Thompson shows up.
My prediction is as soon as Thompson feels any power from Price, he'll fall over and fall asleep. That's what I think.
He's going to feel some power from David Price.
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to feel some power. I'll tell you that there. I'll tell you, in my opinion, the only two guys out there that I see that can cause a serious challenge to the throne of Vladimir Klitschko is David Price and Kubrat Pulev. Those are the only two guys I think that can cause a bona fide challenge.
What about Tyson Fury?
Go ahead. No, I don't think that much of Tyson Fury. I think he's a big, strong guy. I think he's a big guy, not really strong, and he doesn't know how to punch.
Okay.
He does know how to punch. He slaps with his punches. He's an active guy. I see Vladimir Klitschko knocking him out.
What about Vitali?
What about Vitali?
Vitali and Fury, if it happens.
Vitali has enough left to beat Fury. I'm not sold on Fury. He's just a big guy, throws a lot of punches, but I think Vitali got enough in his tank to beat him.
Okay. And the challenge of David Haye?
David Haye won't get the challenge. I think that Vitali beats him too. I think David Haye is just hustling, trying to get another payday. Vitali will kick David Haye's ass.
But there'll be a lot of noise before the fight, eh?
Yeah, Vitali takes a good punch. You hit Vitali with a punch, he's gonna
get mad,
crack your skull. You know.
Yeah, exactly. One last fight I'd like you to go to talk to me about, and we're talking about legacy here, and you'd be very great to talk to me about legacy. Joe Calzaghe.
What about him?
46-0, unbeaten, retired.
46-0, Joe Calzaghe was. 46-0. How many KOs did he have in those 46 fights?
About 30-odd KOs. 30-odd, 32 KOs, I would say.
So he got 46 fights with 36 KOs.
32 KOs, something like that. I can always box record.
What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Early on in Joe Calzaghe's career, I knew he was going to do something because he fought two fights. He fought the Philadelphia guy.
Byron Mitchell?
Brewer.
Brewer.
Byron Mitchell was out of Louisiana somewhere.
Okay.
Byron Mitchell was a lefty, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he had to get up. He had to get off the canvas to fight in those fights. If I'm not mistaken, both guys knocked him down.
I think Brewer didn't, but the other guy did. Byron knocked him down. It was the first time he'd been knocked down in his career, and he got up, and then he gave it to him.
Brewer gave him hell and high water.
Yes.
When he won those two fights, I said, this kid's going to be something. When they put that kid, Joe, what's his name? Joe?
Oh, you talking about left hook Lacey.
Left hook Lacey. When they made that fight, I said they're making a mistake. Because I saw something that everybody else couldn't see. Gary Shaw made that fight for the money. But when they put left hook Lacey in it with Joe Calzaghe, I said they're going to tear his ass up. And nobody believed me. They could have kept left hook Lacey in America, and they could have made thousands of dollars with him. But the promoter, the greasy promoter, and I say that, put him in there with Calzaghe. In Europe. Where was the fight fought? In England?
Yes. England or Wales, one of the two. because Zaki was Welsh.
England, Wales is still England. And took him over there. He got the guy beat, and he was never, ever the same after that. Joe Calzaghe is one of the smartest fighters that ever lived because he made his money, he made his legacy, and he packed his bags up and said, I'm going home. And he never looked back, and I'm proud of him for that. He came in the sport undefeated, he left the sport undefeated, and he never looked back.
Well,
he beat Bernard Hopkins, he beat Roy Jones, and he never looked back.
But people will say that Joe Calzaghe caught both Roy Jones and Bernard Hopkins on the slide.
Too bad they had no business there. It's not Joe Calzaghe's fault. They had no business messing with him. They had no business messing with him. That man was minding his business. They came over there messing with him, and he whooped their ass and said, get out my face. And he just said, you know what? I'm done with this here. Joe Calzaghe is one of the smartest boxers that ever lived. And I applaud that young man. I got big respect for him.
A lot of people disrespect him and say, he didn't fight anybody. He didn't fight anyone in their prime. But he fought Michael Kessler in his prime. He fought Jeff Left Hook Lacey in his prime. Bernard Hopkins went on and won world titles after that. So that can't be too bad. Roy Jones is still fighting now.
They can say what they want to say. All right? That young man is one of the greatest prides for me. When I think about a fighter with dignity and class, he had it. And man, he did one of the best things that could be done. He said, look, I defended my title. I've been here at this weight. You know, I'm not fluctuating in weight. I'm not going. It's no challenge when a guy's going to light heavy and this title and that title. He stayed there at that weight where he was, and he controlled that division with an iron fist.
What would have happened if Joe Calzaghe and Roy Jones had met? Who would have won?
When they were younger?
Yes.
It'd have been a hard fight. I think Roy would have been better. But Joe Calzaghe could fight Roy Jones at any time, and it still would have been a hot contest.
Okay. And
I think he had the ingredients to give Roy problems at any weight.
Andre Ward.
Anytime I think Joe Calzaghe, and this is the significance in getting out at the right time. I think Joe Calzaghe gives anybody a problem. Because Joe Calzaghe had one thing that was really good. He made adjustments.
He did.
To what was there.
Yes.
Who was there, what was there. He made adjustments.
That's what kept him.
So, yeah, exactly. He got out at the right time before his skills eroded, before he got old in the ring. He can live off his reputation there in Wales and England forever. But in my mind, he's one of the greatest boxers that ever lived.
Wow.
One of the greatest boxers that ever lived. And I'm saying right there in that top 7 because he had enough sense to say, you know, my skills is eroding. I need to get out at the right time. And that's what I call smarts, man. Joe Calzaghe is one of my guys. He's right there in that top 7. Smart.
Okay.
Not egotistic.
2 more fighters I'm going to mention. Floyd Mayweather and, I'm not going to say Broner, Floyd Mayweather and Andre Ward.
Floyd Mayweather?
Yes.
Is a very unique fighter. A very proud fighter. And he's not going to go quietly into the night. If you're going to beat Floyd Mayweather, you better bring your lunch. That's what I'm saying. If you're going to beat Floyd Mayweather, you better bring your lunch bag because it's going to be a difficult guy. He's a very stubborn fighter. He's a very proud fighter. And you're not going to just go in there and beat him. You know? He's well aware of who he is. He's well aware of his legacy. And you're not just going to go in there and beat him. No, he's a great fighter. He's a great fighter.
And Andre Ward?
Andre Ward is still proving himself. Again, Andre Ward thus far has done a great job, and he can fight.
He's got great technical skills. Can box on the inside, can box on the outside.
Yeah, he's got good skills. But again, I attribute a lot of this to the people he fights. Him and his trainer has camaraderie, and they have chemistry, and they know what each other want from the other. And I give credit to those two guys for that, you know? The people that Andre Ward is fighting, has fought thus far, they don't seem to have that same chemistry. And that's a minus for them. That puts them in a hard way. Not taking anything away from him, but these guys don't have a clue as to how to beat him, how to start to beat him. You know? So I think Andre Ward's a good fighter, but he's not on the same level as Floyd Mayweather.
Interesting. Very interesting you say that. Very interesting you say that.
No, he's not on the same level with Floyd Mayweather. Andre Ward's a good, honest fighter. I like him. I like his attitude. You understand? He doesn't talk tough. He is tough. You know? He doesn't talk tough. He is tough.
Where would Ward have been, say, 10 years ago?
I think he fits into any time in history. I think he fits in because he's a very basic fighter. You know, he's not really flamboyant. He's not a Ray Leonard. He's not a Tommy Hearns, but he's a good basic, got good basic skills, and he has a lot of desire.
So he's been calling Joe Calzaghe out of retirement. That's hardly going to happen. But if Calzaghe and Ward had met when Calzaghe was in his peak, what would have happened?
Calzaghe would have took him to school. Calzaghe would have took him to school. Calzaghe would have rat-a-tat-tat and pitty-pop, pit-pop-pop. He would have outpointed him. Calzaghe would have outpointed him. Calzaghe wouldn't have got hit with those kind of things, you know?
That's true.
He wouldn't have got hit with those big shots. I think Calzaghe beats him. How can you argue with success? It's very difficult to argue with success. This guy went 46-0 with 30 knockouts. Shit. You can't argue with success. Calzaghe remains on the top of my list. He's one of those smart guys. He just was smart, all around smart. And he got out at a beautiful time. And let the people say what they want to say. Let the record books show what they want to show. But at the end of those stories that they say about him, let it be shown that he got out at the right time, at the very right time. And I applaud him for that. I respect him for that. Man, I like that guy. I told you, you know, the Byron Mitchell and the Brewer fights. Those two fights alerted me that this guy is going to be something special.
Okay.
Because he had to dig down to win those fights.
On a very end note, Jonathan Banks and Seth Mitchell fight again. A lot of people say that if Jonathan Banks doesn't win the fight, he'll be working in McDonald's. What do you think?
Yes. I feel that, you know, because Jonathan Banks wasn't a very exciting fighter leading into the Seth Mitchell fight. He wasn't fan friendly, you know. If you watch the fights leading up to the fight, he wasn't in exciting fights. And let's face it, boxing is about excitement.
Right.
You know? So if he loses the Seth Mitchell fight, you know, he could be working on the railroad the very next day.
What about,
you know?
Do you think Seth Mitchell can beat him in the rematch?
I think Jonathan Banks beats Seth Mitchell in the rematch. You know, I think it'll be a tougher fight, but I think Jonathan Banks finds a way to win. I think he finds a way to win. I think that he beats him in the rematch. I don't know if he'll stop him in the rematch. I think he'll be Seth Mitchell will be a little more careful this time. But he can change a lot of things, but he can't change his chin. He doesn't strike me as a young man that takes a good punch. And the fact of the matter is he takes clean punches. And when you get hit clean the way Seth gets hit, he can get knocked out again. You know, Jonathan Banks is a crafty guy. He's been boxing the heavyweight champions of the world for more than 9 years. So you're not going to just go in there and blow him out of there. Again, application makes all the difference in a fight. I think that they looked at Jonathan Banks' fights leading up to the Seth Mitchell fight, and Golden Boy made up their mind that this is an easy win. It can be deceptive looking at a fight on film and then being in that ring. But what they overlooked was, in choosing the fight, is the fact that Banks has been in there with the heavyweight champion for the last 9 years. And he's boxed both guys. And he knows how to survive against those guys. I've worked the corner for many of those rounds. For many of the rounds that he has been in there boxing these guys, I have been in the corner, you know, giving them around instructions. And, hey, the fact of the matter is he survived those rounds. He knows how to protect himself in the ring. Jonathan Banks is not an exciting fighter, so he needs to win this next fight with Seth Mitchell. You know what I'm saying? He has as much to prove in the second fight or more than he did in the first.
Is it a dangerous fight to take for Banks simply because if he loses this fight, then it puts him back rather than he could have avoided that fight and just moved on and fought somebody else?
I think that the Banks fight is a fight that Golden Boy and Al Heyman is forcing Seth Mitchell. They're telling Seth Mitchell, you got to piss or get off the pot. If you can't beat this guy, all of these hundreds of thousands of dollars that we put into you is lost. You need to go back, fight Banks. You need to beat Banks in order for us to be able to sell you in the future. If you cannot do that, then our association is over. We lost. We got to cut our losses. That's what it seems like to me.
That's what it seems like to me as well.
Saying we're going to cut our losses. If you beat Banks, pistol get off the pot. You got to go back. Whatever the case is, you got to straighten that shit out. You got yourself into it. Now you got to get yourself out of it. Again, I think it boils down to application. I think it boils down to what they're telling them in the corner. Those little things, those little adjustments. If your tie is crooked when you put it on with a suit, all you do is adjust it. You move it right or left just to straighten it out, and you're ready to go.
So if Seth Mitchell was listening to this interview now, and you were going to give him advice as a trainer, what would you say to Mitchell?
I would tell Mitchell to be wary of jumping in. You understand?
Yep.
I would tell him not to box Jonathan Banks, but not to jump in.
Yes.
He's jumping in. You know, he's jumping in. He's making himself an available target. I tell him to box him, but keep a lot of pressure on him at the same time. You got to wear him down in a lot of ways. You know, in a lot of ways, you know. But I would tell him, be ready for a tough fight. I don't want to give too much away because I work with Jonathan Banks.
Okay.
You know, and I want Jonathan to win. I want Jonathan to win.
Absolutely.
You understand? But I tell Seth Mitchell, be aware of everything. Because if you don't, you're gonna get your ass whipped again.
So why is it Banks seems to really wants to hurt Mitchell this time around? Why is that?
Huh?
Why Banks really wants to do a number on Mitchell this time? Why is that?
He said he wants to do a number on Mitchell.
Yeah.
He wants to do a number on Mitchell to solidify his position in the heavyweight division. He wants to solidify his position. He wants to be the big name. Like I said, leading up to the fight, he wasn't very exciting, you know? He wasn't very exciting leading up to the fight. If you watch the fights leading up to the fight, nobody thought that Jonathan Banks was going to turn in a performance like that. Then you got people going around saying Jonathan got lucky. So Jonathan has as much to prove in this fight as he did in the first fight, that it wasn't a fluke.
Wow.
It wasn't a fluke. I knocked you out, and I'll knock you out again. You know? I think he has to be just as aware and just as focused as the first fight. And I think he might have a little more to prove in the second fight, that it wasn't a fluke, that I am here in the heavyweight division, that I am a major player in this division.
Wow.
You know? So, and then he has to come out of that Seth Mitchell fight, and he has to fight again within 2 to 3 months, not 6 months. You got Tyson Fury, you got Price out there, you got Towers out there. You got to fight those guys. You got to be ready to fight those guys at any given time. You can't take off 6, 7 months like you're the champion. You're not the champion. You're not the champion. You have to come out. You have to go out there and beat Seth Mitchell, and then 3 months later be right back in the public's eyes saying, look, I want Tyson Fury. I want David Price.
Wow.
And then say, I want to fight Vladimir Klitschko. I want to fight Vitaly Klitschko.
How would that work, though? How would that work? Cause
but no, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You're a fighter and they're a fighter. What you need to do is take advantage. In boxing, the window of opportunity is open for a short time. You need to jump in that window and say, look, I want to fight. Champ, give me a fight. I'm not making money. Give me a chance to make $1 million, $1.5 million. You know what I'm saying? This is business. There's no harm done. I still respect you. I still love you, but let's fight, man. Give me a shot to win the heavyweight championship. I would go to them. I would go to them as a friend, as a businessman, as a boxer, and say, champion, please let me have a shot at the title. And I'm sure that Vladimir and Vitaly, I know those guys. I know them up close and personal. Those guys would give Jonathan Banks a shot because they like Jonathan. I would ask for a shot at the title to try to win the title. If I don't win, hey, I go back to doing what I was doing. And those guys won't hold it against them. They understand that. Those guys are business people too. They understand the business ramifications. They understand that this whole thing is a business.
Well, probably better that
they will.
It'd probably be better that Vitaly fought Jonathan Banks rather than Vladimir.
I don't care which one of it is. I wouldn't care. I'd ask both of them. I'd ask both of them. Give me a shot.
Wow.
Let me make some money. The whole thing is to make some money.
Absolutely.
Let me make some money.
Let me make some real money. Real money. Real money.
Mm-hmm. Let me make some money. That's what I would do.
Wow.
We could still be friends, man. We could be friends going into the fight, and we can be friends after the fight.
But during
if I was Jonathan,
wow.
If I was Jonathan Banks, I would settle into a training camp. I'd get a 6-7 week training camp and get in the best shape of my life and go out there and roll the dice.
And go for it.
And go for it. If you should beat one of them, then you're almost guaranteed a rematch. More money, more money, more money. That's how I'm saying. You understand?
Yeah.
More money, more money, more money. And that's all I'm saying. And then when it's all said and done, hey, champ, thanks a lot for giving me a shot. Thanks a lot for helping me become a success. You know, those are good guys. The Klitschko brothers are good guys. They're good human beings. They're gonna help Jonathan Banks. They like him. I know for a fact. I've been there forever. They like him. If he just have the gumption, the nerve to say, hey, man, I want to fight you guys, man. Give me a chance to make some money. They're going to help him. They're not going to turn him back. They're not going to turn him back.
It's not going to turn him back. Very strange situation, trainer versus fighter. I've never heard of that in boxing.
Yeah, well, it's the first time for everything.
James Bashir, thank you so much for talking to Bayloric TV. You are a wealth of boxing knowledge. I could talk to you for absolute hours about boxing. It's been so great and refreshing to talk to a trainer with so much knowledge. Oh, it's amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes, you're welcome. Anytime, man. Anytime.
Thank you. Well, there you have it. James Ali Bashir talking about boxing, his experience as a trainer, and the world of boxing as it is. So, thank you very much for listening to the show. I'd like to thank James Ali Bashir for making it all possible to make the interview happen, and a shout out to Savannah Ambrosio for making this interview possible, because without her I would never be able to make the interview with James Ali Bashir. So I hope you enjoyed the interview. I hope you found it insightful, and like I say, at Bayloric TV, we ask the questions you want the answers to. Thanks for listening to the show. Take care.